A little under a year ago, I lost my grandpa. I was really close to him growing up, and it was hard for me to lose such a big supporter of mine. To honor his life and legacy, I decided to take a look back on a story monumental in my mom's childhood, told from the perspective of my mom and my grandma. Like all important family memories, our story today begins with a road trip. My mom and her sisters packed in the back of the station wagon, my grandma in the passenger seat, and my grandpa driving.
My family always took road trips. My dad didn't want to fly, and there were 3 kids, so we would jam ourselves into a car, and we would always leave at like 4 in the morning.
Got to Chicago by 9, which Grandpa always wanted to do. And we stopped in Indiana for our powdered milk mixed with water and donuts. And then we drove on to Washington, D.C. and got there probably about 9 o'clock at night or so.
It was unseasonably warm in DC that year, and it was the 70s, so all of our clothes were made of polyester, long sleeves, long pants. So we show up at the White House lawn, and there are lines, just lines. And we were in line for what felt like forever in the burning sun, and it was so uncomfortable.
But anyway, we eventually got to the entrance to the White House lawn, and the girls had their picture taken in this little box with the Easter Bunny. And basically what they did was they rolled a little plastic egg about 10 feet with a spoon
Along some pre-made path.
So they're finishing up with the Easter eggs, and at this point, nobody's really having any fun. It's hot, it's miserable, nobody wants to be there. So they're getting ready to leave, and they notice this commotion. People are dropping their eggs, and they're running, and
there's talking about the president. And back in those days, Gerald Ford was president, and his wife Betty Ford, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Betty Ford and Gerald Ford step out like they're cool and calm and collected, and Jerry Ford is in a 3-piece suit, and Betty Ford is, her hair is perfect, and she's wearing like a fancy dress, and they step out and they start greeting people. And of course, my older sister Jenny was like sort of pushed to the front by my dad, and my dad scooped up my younger sister Sarah and was holding her so that they could reach out and like shake hands and touch. And my mom had me, and my mom was 5'2" and not pushy.
Of course, I'm being polite. I don't push. So.
My sisters both got to like touch the president and Betty Ford, and no, my mom and I, we never made it to the front. We didn't get to do anything. So then my whole family's buzzing about this, and I'm like, oh, I'm the only one who didn't get to meet anybody. So I was not happy.
My mom may not have been happy, but my grandpa definitely was. I heard about this trip from him several times throughout my childhood. While coping with the grief of losing him definitely hasn't been easy, I have found that reminiscing on fond times and hearing stories in a different light have helped to make the process easier and his spirit to shine a little bit brighter.
He talked for the rest of his life about the time that we met Gerald Ford. Just in general, the family road trips with my dad, he had his ways of doing them. You always drove straight through. He prided himself on how many miles he could travel in a day. He prided himself on what good travelers we were, that we could make that drive. And really, the idea of traveling as a family, like that was something that was really important to my parents. We went on a family vacation every year, and it was always a road trip. And we would go to places that were historical to see the country. I mean, my parents really wanted us to see the country, and we did that.